Hi, I'm Rich Maltzman, and I'm really glad to be here with you today, albeit virtually, to discuss a topic that's been near and dear to me for more than 7 years now. The topic of sustainability and project management and how they interact. This has yielded a few co-authored books and numerous presentations to PM audiences all over the world. In fact, it's something of a milestone for us to see a sustainability-themed International PM Day presented by an influential company such as IIL. We all want our projects to be successful, but for that to really happen, we have to know what project success really means. Do you know what this is? How about those weird lines? Well, if you drive in Boston's Big Dig tunnels, you've driven by thousands of these. This is a 110-pound lighting fixture, one of 25,000 in the tunnels, which, after just a few years of use, started to fall off their housings and onto the roadway. The mounting clips of these fixtures failed due to a design which didn't consider corrosion from exposure to salt and other de-icing chemicals. Let's stop here for a moment. If you're dealing with a tunnel in Boston, you know or should know that salt and de-icing chemicals are used on its roadways. Just ask any Bostonians about last winter. They'll tell you all about it. Winters, de-icing, salt. This is the sort of long-term use of a project's product that I'll mention throughout this presentation. As far as the light fixtures, luckily the problem was detected before anyone was hurt. But the retrofitted straps, those weird lines you see in this picture, which now hold the fixtures to the walls, well, they cost $54 million in parts and labor, along with multiple lane closures, and a new wave of distaste and distrust for the project, and literally are a glowing example of the fact that a project really isn't successful until it serves its end purpose in the long term. This is the view of sustainability we want you to take on today, a view of long-lastingness. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through what I think you'll find to be a well-serving definition of project success, which I'll compare to project management success, which, although very important, is just not enough anymore. Let's look at a simple 2x2 matrix, which plots project effectiveness and project efficiency. On the horizontal axis, you'll see project management success plotted from low to high. This is also called project efficiency. Projects at the high end, to the right side of this slide, are well managed, carefully controlling the constraints of scope, time, cost, risk, resources, and quality. On the vertical axis, you'll see project success. We can call that project effectiveness. Projects at the top of this scale have had their project's product, its outcome, considered successful. All in all, this diagram yields 4 quadrants. Let's look at each. In the lower left quadrant, we see projects which are not managed particularly efficiently, nor did the product of the project serve its customers as planned. The Big Dig, unfortunately, is one example of this sort. Well over budget, extremely late, and laden with problems like the light fixture example, and worse. Projects in this lower right quadrant may have been managed very efficiently, but the product of the project did not sustain success. The Ford Edsel and Sony Betamax, for example, could have had the very best of project management practices and methodologies, yet for other, usually product-related or marketing reasons, did not enjoy long-term success. Here we could also add project launches where there is an unwanted byproduct, such as a non-recyclable cup from a coffee maker or a system which releases significant carbon into the environment. Projects in the top left quadrant are those in which the project was not managed very efficiently and yet had an outcome which has ended up yielding long-term success. The project itself was laden with tremendous issues of budget, scope, and schedule. Here's an example for you to consider. We think of the Sydney Opera House as a success, even a symbol of Australia. And if you've been lucky enough to attend an event there, you've certainly heard, seen, and felt the success that this grand building radiates. Yet, this project was over budget by a factor greater than 10, had a government-imposed early start date, and took 14 years to complete instead of the 4 years that was forecasted. At the top right, we find the extreme best of both worlds. Well managed and providing lasting success, we don't provide you with a particular example because this is where your projects will live once you pay attention to the long term and the fit of the project to its portfolio and to its enterprise goals. Beyond this, and beyond the altruistic reasons for considering the long term, studies have shown that organizations which stress so-called triple bottom line thinking, people, planet, and profits, gain a competitive advantage. One more thing before we leave this graphic. To really visualize the concept, we could actually add a third dimension, endurance. We could imagine that endurance could be the triple bottom line version of success, adding depth to the matrix and making this an efficiency, effectiveness, endurance matrix, focused on project success, project management success, as well as lasting triple bottom line success. Turns out, thinking past the project end date is hard for us project managers. Why? We're necessarily focused on the end of our project. We'd like to give you permission, scratch that, encouragement, or even better, direction based on our experience to look past the delivery of your project's product to operations. And we'd like you to expand your horizon to think beyond and past your project boundaries to the program and portfolio levels and understand the fundamental drivers of your project. Doing so will help you identify risk. Just ask the Big Dig project managers who ended up having to initiate a rescue project to install all of those light fixture straps. Since the focus of today's International PM Day session is sustainability, we challenge you to go to the About Us section of your enterprise's webpage to discover what they're saying about ecological and social responsibility. In our book, we even talk about a 3-click challenge reminiscent of the key scene from the classic film The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy is told that she had the power all along. In our version of this movie scene, acting as Glinda, the Good Witch, we assert that you should be able to get to those statements in 3 clicks or less. Wherever and however you find these statements, when you make project decisions, are you taking them into account when chartering and planning your projects? Are you using them to assert a better choice for the long term, even if it increases the budget or slightly stretches the schedule in the short term? You should be. Your corporate or enterprise mission and vision can be a huge source of power for you as a thoughtful project manager and a sort of power assist for decision making. As project managers, we obviously focus our attention on the project timeline. We sometimes literally stand with our backs to the wall of our project deliverable date, like the fellow in the image, looking it over, orchestrating what has to happen to get us to deliver on that date, to deliver it well, and to deliver it within our budget. Look at all the detail that the project manager can see, threats, opportunities, milestones, all good and important stuff. But he has his back to the future. Here, the whole future is represented by a small green square. We need that square to get bigger. We could gain tremendous advantage if we were to turn around at key times, put on our binoculars, and look out beyond the handoff to operations, now shown in a size more reflective of reality, to the steady state. This will give us a better understanding of how customers really use the project's product, understanding what wastes and byproducts it produces. And it's not just about ecological, social, or even economic bottom lines. This long-term view will help you identify and analyze risks and make better project decisions. It will help orient and motivate your project team because they will see how their project helps the organization and customers realize benefits. A simple equation describes the fundamentals of this concept. Project success, especially considered over the long term, is greater than project management success. In other words, the project that yields benefits for stakeholders, including ecological and social stakeholders, in the long term, is more successful than the one which happens to have good PM metrics. I was lucky enough to serve as an expat in the Netherlands for 2 years for my company. While there, I discovered author Harry Mullish. One of his books, The Discovery of Heaven, a book one could only describe as a science fiction, religious, political thriller fantasy, intrigued me for several reasons, but only one which I'll discuss with you here. The element I'd like to discuss is his table of contents. The book is divided into 4 parts: the beginning of the beginning, the end of the beginning of the end, and the end of the end. Let's think of ourselves, project managers, as those focused on the handing off of a product, service, or result to operations, one which serves its end purpose. The project is over for us when we reach the end of the beginning. We're interested in moving on to our next project. It's understandable that we see this as the project's completion. So we often stop there, and more importantly, stop our thinking there. But should we? At least for planning our project, shouldn't we think through to the end result of our product's end purpose? As I said before, we're here to give you permission, a green light if you will, to think through to the steady state use, the beginning of the end, and the end of the end, to think through even to that day when the product of your project is going through disposal or reuse. As an example, let's take a look at a product you probably have in your home or apartment, or at least one you know very well. It's cube-shaped, about 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, and often, but not always, white. It usually sits next to or under another similar cube, one that works together with this one. Can you guess what it is? It's a washing machine. So how can we take a look at this project's product to help us understand sustainability thinking? The gray and black bars in this chart represent various forms of environmental impact, such as energy consumption, pollution, and water consumption. Turns out you could look at any of these. Notice anything striking about the environmental impact of all of these of the washing machine during different phases of its life: production, distribution, use, and disposal? By far, the most impact comes from its use. So if you could develop a washing machine or a detergent that could wash clothes effectively in less water or colder water, you would be making a significantly higher contribution than working on reducing packaging weight or cutting waste from the manufacturing process. These are still worthy efforts, but by looking at the product's real impact, we can do a much better job of meeting triple bottom line requirements. This image depicts the gear model we use to describe how project management fits into the world of business. We, project managers, are that central cog that connects the overall purpose and far-reaching strategy of an organization, its mission, vision, and values, shown at the top as a green gear, to steady-state operations, shown at the bottom as a large red gear. We like to say that we, as project managers, are at the point where the rubber hits the road, where ideas become reality. So it's incumbent on us to understand both the ideas at the portfolio level and the reality at the operations level. It's about change. We project managers should be great at that, right? Remember, the definition of a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product, service, or result. That is, change. As project managers, we actually exist because of change. No change, no need for a project, no need for project managers. So we must recognize the necessity of changing inside our discipline, just as project managers become proponents of necessary change when we run a project. Yes, it will take some energy and a slight departure from our comfort zone to step outside some of the lines that have been drawn around us as project managers, and some lines, quite frankly, that we may have drawn around ourselves. And it's clearly a cultural thing, as we crave closure on our projects and at least sometimes can't wait to get started on our next one. But we really must insist that you make this change to your mindset for the sake of your project team, your project's output, and to enhance your enterprise's triple bottom line. The difference you make will be important for your organization and perhaps the planet as well. We've written about this in a new book that provides this context as well as a means to assess and improve how your organization currently integrates sustainability thinking into its portfolio of projects. We hope you'll take this book for a test drive. Also, you can follow our blog posts on our site, earthpm.com, and tweets on Twitter, posts on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. It's been my pleasure to present these ideas to you, and I urge you to take advantage of the entire sustainability-oriented program that IIL has put together built on this most important theme. Remember to consider sustainability in all your projects. It will literally have a long-lasting positive effect. Thanks for your time and attention.